In this video we're going to be looking at an editing workflow in Premiere Pro CS 5.5. Now this editing workflow is designed to help simplify your workflow and also reduce the resources in your machine when you get to an edit with a significant number of clips that starts to bog your machine down and slow it down. So for this example I'm going to be using my showreel. So without further ado, I'm going to load the old version. Now what I want to do is I've got this 2012 version of my showreel and I want to make a 2013 update to the reel, but I don't want to have to deal with all the original material I had when I made this showreel because a lot of it's redundant, slows the system down. So let's load this old edit first. So here's Premiere Pro at its load screen, so I'm going to load the V3 project. Now when this project loads, the important thing is if you have a look down the bottom of the interface, you'll basically see Premiere loading the media. If you look down here it says 662 items remaining, and it's gradually kind of becoming smaller and smaller. And what it's doing is it's loading every single clip that's in the project bin up here on the left, and it's basically kind of loading them in because those are all the bits of footage that I had referenced when I was making the showreel. Now a lot of these clips are not necessarily needed anymore. Some of them were never used, but obviously when you're working on a big project the tendency is to just have them around all the time, in the various folders. So I've got various footage folders and things here. So what I want to do is I want to simplify this edit, add some new material for 2013, but I don't want to have to wait all this time. As you can see, it's still loading clips. It's down to 175 clips and going, and it's gradually getting there. And Premiere will be very sluggish until all of these files have been loaded in, and it'll be just a bit painful to use because some of the media will still be offline. So now you can see all the media is in. The timeline's green, which on my system means that there's a video preview has been rendered for this. So what I want to do first is, rather than start editing a whole new showreel like this and have these 600 odd clips, which I don't really need, I know that I just have a small amount of footage from the new show I worked on, Bloody Tales, and I want to load that in to the new edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually output my previous edit in pieces that I can then take into a new edit. And these outputs are going to be kind of new clips, but because they're going to be a single clip, I'm going to have just a nice, concise series of clips to work with to add my new material to. So the first thing I want to do is I need to identify in my edit the pieces that I want. So I happen to know that if I go through the edit and look at it, it basically breaks down into a number of coherent, sensible pieces. For example, here is the opening with the outcast sequence, and it fades to black, and then I go into the next cut, which has a title burn in. So that's a very good point to for me to break, because it's a concise piece, includes kind of the title sequence to my video, and runs up to about 45 seconds into the edit. So I'm going to focus on the video track 1 and use the jump to next edit point. So go to next edit point, and that will put it my timeline smack on the next edit point, and I'm going to add a marker. So this is going to let me just kind of remember, put a marker on the timeline so I can jump back to this whenever I need to. So in fact, before I do this, I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to make sure, because I think there's some old markers there, I'm going to clear all the old markers out and then just go add marker. So that's the first section which I want to output. So if I now scroll through my video, I'm now seeing the next section, which is basically the test piece that was done for Mission 2110, and then that runs into the actual Mission 2110 show. So that's probably another good breakpoint. So let's just have a look at that transition, and it goes to black and then comes up, and then some titles burning up over it. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit, find out where that fade occurs. You can see the fades here, and there's the edit point for the fade. So I'm just going to go jump to that edit point, and again I'm going to add a marker on the timeline so I can come back to this when I'm ready to output. So the next chunk I'm going to zip through and find, so this is all Mission 2110 material, and then after Mission 2110 I'm basically going into outcasts. So I'm going to jump to that edit point. Again, I'm going to put another marker there, so that's now starting on the outcast material in the edit. So let's scroll forward again. So this is all outcasts. As you can see, quite a lot of edits because this is the more recent material that I've worked on, so I put quite a lot of this in. Okay, so Spooks is an older show, so that's another good breakpoint. So let's, if we zoom in a bit there, you can see where Spooks starts. It's also got again a kind of title and stuff on it. So I'm going to jump to that start of Spooks and put another marker on the timeline. And then let's find the next breakpoint. So we go forward. This is all Series 8 of Spooks. Alright, now we've got some old stuff coming up here. This is Lost in Space from Magic Camera Days. There's a little section there on that. So I'm just going to jump to that edit point. Again, another marker. I'm now going to find the end of all the material from my days at Magic Camera Company. So I'm just going to scroll through this. And there, so that vertical limit, that was Peerless Camera Company. So again, I'm just going to go to that edit and just put a marker on it. And vertical limit, I think that's about the only sequence I've got from when I was at Peerless, because that was kind of probably one of the best films that I worked on there. So again, I'm just going to put a marker around that. This is a commercial. This is the launch of the Honda Civic. So again, and I'm going to put a marker at the end of that because the next thing after that is the Life and Death of Peter Sellers. So again, I'm just going to mark that section. This is all Life and Death of Peter Sellers, which is a fair few cuts because that was quite a nice show up to here. So let's just jump into that. This next one is Strange, which is a BBC TV series, so I'm just going to mark that. This is the last series of Spooks, Series 10. So this is the start of the edit showing the work on that particular show. So we're nearing the end now. This is all Spooks Series 10. And then we finish the reel off with a final shot from Outcast. So again, I'm going to jump to the start of that. Let's just make sure I've got the right edit point. I haven't, so I've just got to come back here. So there's the start of the Outcasts reprise at the end. Put another marker there. And that should be it. Basically, the remainder of the reel is just the Outcast finale shot with a dip to black at end, and that's it. So I don't need to put a marker at the end of the timeline because I can snap to that automatically whenever I want. So if I now look at what I've done and zoom back out, we can now see I've got all of these markers on the timeline, and each one of these represents the start of a new segment that I want to output as a unique clip to the hard disk, so that I can then load it into a whole new edit. And by doing that, effectively what I'm doing is I'm taking away all these hundreds and hundreds of little clips that I've had before. So let's do the first one. This is the opening right down here, and I can just jump to that by I've just moved the timeline arbitrarily into the middle of the first clip, and then I can right click on the timeline here and I can go sequence marker and I can say go to next. And what that does, as you can see, is it just jumps to the sequence marker that I sort of made before, so I know exactly that's where I want to be. And what I want to do now is I want to snap the workspace area to that marker, so that when I output this clip, that's all I'm going to get. So if I now move the workspace area there here, you can see that I've snapped the workspace to that marker. So with that section of my edit selected, effectively what I can do now is I can output this as a clip. So with the edit selected, I can go up to the file menu and I can do an export. Now the file menu unfortunately is going to sort of be off to the left of the screen here because I'm sort of running a capture utility, so you won't be able to see it, but what I'm actually selecting is file, and then down the bottom is the export and media. So because I defocused from my edit, it just disappeared for a moment. Export and export media. You can obviously also use a shortcut, the Control M key, works very nicely for that. So here's your standard media export dialog. The first time you run it up, it'll default to the last used format that you outputted for encoding. We actually don't want to use any of this because we actually want to output the edit using the same format it was captured with. So for example, say you were a user of a Canon XF305 camera and you had your edit set to that format, then you basically want to output it in that same format, because if you do that, then no re-encoding will occur and you won't have lost a generation when you go to disk. So the way to do that is to just go up here and select match sequence settings. So if we click on that, and what you'll see is all this stuff kind of grays out, and the reason for that is that it's basically overriding everything and saying, I know what your sequence settings are because they're the same as your edit. That's what I'm going to use for output from this moment. What I can change up here, as you can see, is I can change the output name, which I do want to change because I don't want to use the current edit name, because I'm actually only outputting a part of it as a new clip. So I need to change the name here before I do the output. So I'm going to click on that, and this will bring up a standard output dialog. And I'm going to go to my, as you can see I'm already in the sort of current showreel area of my kind of current project. So I'm in Projects, Alan, Showreel 2011, Edit, Premiere, and Showreel 2012. Now I'm going to put this footage into a specific folder, because basically this is kind of it's pretty much like a sort of segment of the program that's pre-edited. So I want to actually kind of make a folder for this so that I can find all these clips and sort of easily load them into my new project. So I'm actually going to make a specific folder for this, and I'm going to click on the new folder, and this is under Edit Premiere, which is where I want to keep these new clips, and I'm going to use the name PreEdit. So this is a pre-edit. In other words, I'm basically pre-editing a section of my program, and that will I can then load that in. So I'm going to go into pre-edit, so make sure I'm in the right direction now, and now I'm going to name this clip properly. So this is from my Showreel 2012. I'm going to leave the 720p bit to remind me that it's 720. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to call this Part 1, because this is the first part of the sort of clips that I've designated that I want as an output. So I'm going to hit save. That now updates the name here, so you can see the name's updated. If I hover over the name, it'll show you where the location on the hard drive is, which is where I want to be. It's a .mpeg file because obviously I'm using the match sequence settings and it's matching to the source material, which is what I want. Now before I export this, there's one thing we have to check, which is kind of important. Down here we want to make sure that this source range is set to work area. If it's not, and it sometimes is set to entire sequence, then you'll get your entire edit all over again regardless. So you won't get the bits that I want as clips, I'll get the whole edit. So make sure that it's set to work area, because when it's set to work area, as you can see, it's only going to output the piece that I have selected in my timeline, and that's what's kind of going to go out to disk. So I'm happy with this. I've got my output location set, I have my file name set, and I have the work area set that I'm outputting. So I can now go export. And now Premiere is going to go away, and it's basically going to export this out to disk as a unique single clip with audio that I can now load in to a new edit. Okay, so that's now done. It has exported. We can kind of check this by just looking on our hard drive and making sure it is where we expect to find it. So I put it into Premiere and made a new directory, so I want to go up a level. And here is the pre-edit folder that I made. And if we go in here, here is our new clip, Part 1 MPEG clip, and as you can see, it's been recognized by VLC Media Player as a new clip. So this now is a section of our edit, but it's now one clip. So instead of 600 clips, in my edit, I've now got this one neat clip from the first section. So let's get the others out and get those exported, and then we can start our new edit.